our great senior senator from California, Dianne Feinstein.
For the party? True or false?
We had 250,000 hits on YouTube, but it only got us $1,900.
Figure it out, actually. Well, let me begin by saying hello, Democrats. Now you're supposed to respond. Let's try it again. I say hello, Democrats, and you say hello, Dianne. Here we go. Hello, Democrats. Hello, Dianne. See, that's exactly how it works. It's really great to be here. I enjoyed a few minutes of having a chance to, meet people, have some pictures taken, talk with some people, and it was really quite wonderful because it's not within the Beltway. And I'm really home with real people who care very deeply, and I'm so grateful for that. John introduced a number of great leaders here today, and I guess that's what's so special about this state. The Republicans really couldn't find a candidate to run against me, but we have all these great leaders here, hopefully not waiting to run against me. Well, let me get right down to it. The first order of business is very clear. We must re-elect a man who restored America's image abroad, who saved the American auto industry, and who has worked tirelessly to bring this country back from an economic catastrophe he actually inherited. We have to come together like we have never come together before to re-elect Barack Obama to the presidency of the United States. That's our first order of business. Our second order of business is to elect and re-elect Democrats to the House of Representatives. I know Nancy Pelosi was here yesterday, but we have a great opportunity to pick up some seats. I just spoke with someone who wants to run in one of the 6 seats that the Republicans now have open. And I think we should all support her. And if we can pick up these seats, it'll help Nancy reach the 25 seats she needs to take back the House. And then California will once again have a speaker in the House of Representatives. I was saying at the table that as you watch the Republican candidates, Barack Obama looks better and better and better. So let's talk about what a Gingrich or a Romney or a Santorum would have in store for this country. It would be no health care reform. It would be no job program, no financial regulation, no effort to deal with climate change, no stem cell research, no reform of a broken immigration system like Howard Berman and I have been working on, no woman's right to choose, and a meat axe to Medicare and Social Security. But there would be a colony on the moon with the aim of making it the 51st state of the United States of America. What do you all think about that? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is not an agenda for America's future, or the moon's, for that matter. So what does a Democratic agenda for the future really look like? Let me give you some ideas. First, affordable access to health care that doesn't deny coverage for pre-existing conditions or limit lifetime benefits. Second, prudent and strong regulation of financial institutions so that American consumers get a fair shake when buying a home, investing hard-earned money in a college fund, or saving for retirement. Third, the protection of Medicare, Social Security, and a social safety net to keep people out of poverty. You know, increasingly, when people retire in America today, there is no pension, there is no retirement. What they have is Social Security, and that's the hallmark of our party, and we must keep it healthy. Of a woman's right to choose, and an end to playing politics with women's health. Fifth, immigration reform that recognizes that newcomers, immigrants, are vital to our economy, and through their hard work they earn the ability to come out of the shadows with dignity. We must achieve this. Must find a way to invest in education, K through 12, and university education as well. My husband is a regent of the University of California, and he wouldn't forgive me if I didn't say that, and I mean it. So we're going to need all of your help, because right now, education gets a short shrift. So there's so much to do, and I'm ready for the challenge, and I want to thank you for the endorsement. Now let me go on to speak about a couple of things and then ask for your help. Today, we have 10 million homes underwater in America. 20% of them, or 2 million, are here in California. And just last year, we had 428,000 foreclosure notices sent to California families. This is a human tragedy. I know the stories. I've written many letters, too many, to bank CEOs on behalf of constituents facing foreclosure. I've seen the devastation in subdivisions of homes boarded up, copper ripped off, yards drying up. And I know from the stories I heard what it means to someone whose home is their prized possession and the center of family life to lose it and have to walk away. It is devastating. In his State of the Union message, President Obama said the following: I'm sending to Congress a plan that gives every responsible homeowner the chance to save about $3,000 on their mortgage by refinancing at historical low rates. No more red tape, no more runaround from the banks. A small fee on the largest financial institutions will ensure that it won't add to the deficit. And we will give banks that were rescued by taxpayers a chance to repay a deficit of trust. He is absolutely right, and I hope to introduce that legislation in the Senate of the United States. Our great Attorney General this afternoon, and just this week 49 state attorneys general announced a historic settlement that produced a $25 billion sanction on banks to help homeowners modify their loans. They say this is just the beginning. I say, let's bring it on. So, I think that dealing with the housing market is really one of the first priorities of this Congress. Let me tell you a little story. When the Defense Authorization Bill came out of the Armed Services Committee and came to the floor of the Senate, we noticed that something rather diabolical had happened. Language had been added to the bill, which used the resolution to authorize military force in Iraq to essentially apply the law of war to the United States of America. Now, what does that mean? Under the law of war, you can pick up, hold, and detain a person without charge or trial. Well, I rushed down to the floor. As chairman of the Intelligence Committee, I brought our staff. And one of the best things about the Senate is that on occasion, you can have real debate and real dialogue. And in fact, we had it through the entire day. I proposed an amendment. It lost. I proposed a second amendment, which was a compromise amendment, and it was across the board, just 3 no votes. And essentially what it did, it just stayed present law. Since that time, we have put together a bill that essentially is called the Due Process Guarantee Act. When I was a small child, my father took me down to a racetrack. It was Tanforan. I think Jeff Morey knows what I'm going to say. And what I saw there were thousands of Japanese American citizens told to report at a certain time of day, loaded into buses, taken down to Tanforan, and interned without recourse for the remainder of World War II. It was a stain on America. It took till 1971 for a weak law to get passed. It took Ronald Reagan to apologize for it. And now it's going to take a new law, which we are proposing, which will provide that no American citizen can be picked up, detained, held without trial or charge. I need your support on this bill. Here is the second thing that I need your support on. I have 3 things. There is a petition for an initiative now being circulated that would give this dynamic young man, our state insurance commissioner, the ability to regulate egregious health premium rates of Today, insurance companies are earning record profits. Let me give you an example. In the first quarter of 2011, the 5 largest for-profit health insurance companies recorded a net profit of $3.9 billion, a 16% increase from the same quarter the year before. Now, what are they doing? I think in anticipation of the exchanges going into play on healthcare reform of 2014, I think what they're doing now is raising the individual premium market as much as they possibly can. So many people, 800,000 people in California are essentially getting premium rate increase after premium rate increase, some 2 a year. Thousands have lost their insurance simply because they can't pay the premium rates. The average premiums for these family policies increased 131% from 1999 to 2009. Dave now has the legal authority to, let me put it another way. What he needs is something that 17 other states, including us, don't have. He needs the right to be able to make these rate increases transparent, in other words, public, and then if they are unreasonable, to reject that raise. We need to give the state insurance commissioner teeth to deal with us, and this initiative will do just that. I need to ask you, and there are people, I think, in purple shirts, is that right? Are they here? They're on the floor, Dave. If I understand it correctly, they are circulating the initiative petition that I am the first signator on. Is that correct? So please, it's good. Sign it. We need 505,000 signatures to qualify this for the ballot. If you can help by circulating a petition, please do. I think some of it is going to be online. Please become part in this movement. It is important, and you could actually be directly affected by it. Now, one more thing to ask you. Let me talk for a moment about civil rights. First, we had a tremendous victory for fairness when the Ninth Circuit found that Proposition 8 violated. I happen to personally care very much about this issue, and I believe California is moving closer to restoring marriage equality. 16 years ago, I was one of only 14 senators who voted no on the so-called Defense of Marriage Act, now known as DOMA. Now, recently, I introduced a bill to strike DOMA from federal law and give back the 1,100 federal rights that DOMA has very cleverly taken away, and I'll explain this more in a moment. Taken away from tens of thousands of legally married same-sex couples, including 18,000 who were married in California before Proposition 8 passed. Now, I'm talking about basic rights and protections, like the right to file joint federal income taxes, to receive Social Security spousal benefits, to take unpaid leave, to obtain the protections of the estate tax. Now, marriage is a state responsibility. All family law reverts to the states. And a number of states, 7, including and the District of Columbia, have said that same-sex marriage is legal. So what DOMA does is take away from everyone in these 7 states legally married, or anywhere else legally married, 1,100 federal rights. It is diabolical. It was wrong when it was introduced. It's wrong today, and we must change it, no matter how long it takes. We now have 31 co-sponsors in the Senate. We have had a Judiciary Committee hearing. We have voted it out on a partisan basis, and we intend to fight this and continue this fight until DOMA is no longer the law of the land, until we see that, yes, as states permit same-sex marriage is legal and entitled to all rights. Now, let me end with something. I want to be a voice for prudent debt reduction in the Senate. And I want to be sure we protect the social safety net and reduce our crushing debt over the next 10 years. But one of the things I don't really like is that this president is blamed for the fiscal mess he inherited. And I want to take a moment to point that out. The fact of the matter is, it was the Bush administration who fought 2 wars off budget, on borrowed money, on the debt, while cutting taxes to the highest earners at the same time. It was the Bush administration that added $5.1 trillion to the national debt between 2002 and 2009. Those are Congressional Budget Office numbers. So the president inherited an awful mess in terms of the budget and in terms of unemployment. So our number 1 priority is, without a doubt, job creation and getting this economy back on track. And there are glimmers of progress. Nationwide, there have been 3 million jobs created under President Barack Obama. The California unemployment rate, which was 12.5% last year, is 11.1% this year. Too low, going down. In January, United States payrolls jumped 243,000, and the nationwide unemployment rate fell from 8.5% to 8.3%. With Governor Brown in Sacramento, we're trending in the right direction. But as the governor will tell you, too many Californians cannot still find work. In our state, we have more than 2 million, actually it's 2,021,195 of our neighbors out of work, on unemployment, according to the Labor Department. And we just had the distinguished Secretary of Labor, and would you please give her a big round, Secretary Hillary Sullivan. The President proposed a jobs plan last year to cut taxes, to send money to job-creating infrastructure projects, and support teacher and first responder salaries. It was filibustered in the Senate by Republicans, and we could not get the necessary 60 votes. So we broke it up into smaller pieces, still funding it with a very small surcharge on millionaires. We did it once, we did it twice, we did it 3 times, and it was filibustered. The only part of the package that passed was the small part that had to do with veterans. I'd like to see the Congress pass and the President sign an extension of the payroll tax through 2012. This is really critical because it's going to put $1,000 in the pockets of 17 million Californians, and that's not too shabby. An extension of the unemployment insurance for the long-term unemployed, that's 99 weeks, not 52 weeks, who are losing hope in our difficult economy. Tax credits to employers for hiring long-term unemployed workers and to encourage the hiring of unemployed veterans. And finally, investments in infrastructure through a national infrastructure bank so we can modernize our roads, rails, airports, and waterways and put hundreds of thousands of construction workers back to work. Let me give you an example. My husband and I were in Shanghai. We have the distinguished former mayor of San Francisco, also moved our Shanghai San Francisco Sister City Committee and did great things with it. And I happened to have started it, and we've been there together. But the Shanghai people told us this story. They were going to build 375 kilometers of underground subway. And they were going to do it in 10 years with 25 stations. And my jaw dropped. And I said something like, we couldn't do this in 75. And of course, you know how they do it. They send a notice to Mrs. Wu, who lives in a high-rise, and says, in 30 days you will move to X, Y, or Z. There's no planning process, board of permit appeals, all of that, which we have. The point is, we have to compete. We use it or we lose it. And we're not competing with modern infrastructure able to compete. Our ports need updating, our rail system needs updating, our highways need updating. We need modern infrastructure. So a methodology to fund it is what we're talking about in an infrastructure bank. We face a Republican Party today that lavishes tax cuts on millionaires and billionaires and oil companies, but asks nothing of those who have done well in this difficult economy. It's a party of no, as I indicated earlier. In 2011, a Democratic president and a Democratic Senate stood our ground, and we stopped them from rolling back progress. But imagine the last year, if we didn't have a Democrat in the White House or a Democrat majority in the Senate to fight the extremism. Just think of the damage a Gingrich or a Romney or a Santorum would do if they reach the White House or if the Tea Party takes over the Congress. One of the things that I've learned in 20 years there, ladies and gentlemen, this is in fact a great democracy. This offers opportunity second to none in the world. But to function, it depends on compromise. And the more you elect outliers for whom compromise is a dirty word, the more you elect people who will not solve a basic problem unless you do it their way, then what you have is stasis. which on the highway is called gridlock. And that's where we are today. And that's why these House elections mean so much. And that's why trying to get Democrats into the 6 vacated Republican seats in California means so much. And that's why re-electing Barack Obama means so much. And keeping and expanding the Democratic majority in the United States Senate. I'm going to ask you to expand outside of California. Go to some of the states. Talk with people. We must win these races. I truly believe that the future of America and the future of reasonable people and of this country hangs in balance. So I got to ask you one thing, and say it loud. Will you help? Yes. Not enough. Will you help?